Welcome back to the Deal Vault podcast. If you're a real estate investor looking to scale, secure funding, and learn from real deals, you're in the right place. I'm Greg, and together with Nate and Sarah, we'll sit down each week and break down market trends, funding strategies, real deal stories from our investors. Now, if you're ready to unlock knowledge, relationships, and capital you need, let's open the vault.
I've got a pretty interesting question for all the procrastinators out there. What is one project that you've completed recently that you put off for quite a while and then it took you 5 minutes?
Or less. There's probably too many of these, and I block them out of my mind because either I'm still procrastinating on them, or when I did get it, I was like, dadgummit, that really was pretty easy. I should have just done it. And I want to block that out because it makes me feel bad about myself. But Liza Jane had that light out in her closet for like forever.
Yeah.
It's because I was told that the whole outlet had like pooped out or something. Somehow that was communicated to me, whether I discovered that or whatever it was. That's what I had in my head. So I'm like, okay, that's not that hard, but I got to go get out the, wire splicers and all this stuff. And I got to make sure I have the right fixture, et cetera, et cetera. I got the ladder up and toolbox, which all my stuff's always strung out everywhere. It's going to be this big ordeal, even though it's not that big of a deal. Well, turns out that the light bulb just broke in the outlet, which is a pain in the butt, but
I think, to be fair, the gap of time, just you lost it in translation, because I'm pretty sure you realized there's a broken light bulb in there, and then you're like, I'll come back to that.
probably.
Oh, to one of my favorite families, the dude dad guy, and I bought you a shirt because I love you, but it's like almost always finished construction. And he just, we got a lot of house projects. I think we made some shutters like 3 years ago that they're stained and everything. They're ready to go someday. Someday
Next
we'll have
weekend.
shutters. It's all right.
It's gonna happen.
Almost always done.
What about you, Nate? What do you got?
Mine is one that I just knocked out last night. So GE dishwasher. The new GE dishwashers are notorious for airing out on you with like a bad pressure sensor.
Notorious, yeah.
So like
Everybody knows that.
obviously, well, now everybody does. I put it out there, but the 18 months into owning this one, had to replace the pressure sensor, and it was a whole ordeal where I like really pulled the whole thing out. But I did think it could be done easier than like the YouTube tutorial that I followed
You
last
stopped at
time.
Lowe's. Did you get any items?
I did not. This I actually ordered on Amazon, which is the other thing. I always procrastinate saying I'll just go pick it up myself and save $4 versus having Amazon deliver tomorrow. But this time I put it off for like 3 weeks since we've been hand washing dishes for a while. And I finally ordered the pressure sensor, and I was right. I could do it easier, and it took me exactly like 6 or 7 minutes to just get under the dishwasher.
6
pull the
7?
exactly.
Sorry,
Sorry. Let's heat that up. Take the kick plate off, take the pressure sensor out, unplug it, plug the new one in.
Well, you could be the next
Right
DIY GE pressure sensor. It could be famous. So,
Yeah.
well, I feel like our topic today is pretty relevant. We're talking timelines, projects, procrastination, best practices. Sometimes things seem a lot harder than we think, so we kind of hold on it, and just wanted to bring to light a conversation that we have to just support our real estate investors all the time, and that's just the timelines for loan transactions, how to set appropriate expectations for the team of people you're working with, right? Your realtor, your title companies, right? Your sellers, if you're connecting with them directly, and what you can do from the beginning of the transaction to reduce stress. So what are you guys telling your investors, or seeing our team telling investors that happens and it comes up while we're in the middle of the transaction, but what would we wish to tell them before they started?
Nate, I thought about this deal yesterday. When can we close? Wait,
I found it on Zillow yesterday.
when can we close?
Yeah.
Nate, when can we close? When can we close?
Yeah. Well, Greg, Mr. Investor, I would say it depends on your transaction type.
Yeah.
So
Great.
if it's a DSCR loan, and we're going to get a 30-year fixed loan on this turnkey property, then we need 4 weeks from the time that you pay for your appraisal, more than likely. That's our target. I've had closings recently that were clear to close in 18 to 20 days from the time the investor filled out the loan application.
Yeah.
Now, they were under contract already. Then they complete their loan application, and then they really hustled to pay for their appraisal immediately, upload their docs. That appraiser got in there pretty fast, so we got into underwriting relatively quickly on those 3-week deals.
Yeah.
But
That's all the time.
it happens all the time. And so I think our averages, though, are probably between like 28 and 35 days.
Yeah.
So we tell people all the time, if at a minimum for a turnkey property, we need you to get on a 30-day contract. And if you're only giving us 30 days, then we really need to be on the ball at the front end as far as completing the items that your transaction manager, who's your subject matter expert in all things, processing and underwriting prep, everything that they ask you to do, we need that done, in the words of Michael Scott, ASAP as possible.
ASAP as possible. Yeah, and that 30-day time frame, or even a little bit under that, because that happens all the time on a clean transaction. If somebody gives us a 30-day contract, hopefully we're getting that deal started on day 0 of that contract being signed, because we've already been talking to you. That's the best case scenario. That still doesn't give a ton of room for error for, hey, you're in an area where there's not a ton of appraisers, and it takes 2.5 weeks from the time that you pay for the appraisal to get that report back.
Yeah.
There's not a lot as far as the loan process that can do to account for that, other than hustle in all of the other parts of the transaction. But some things just can't go faster. I mean, a 2-day underwrite is really, really fast. But if you only give them 1 day to do that, that's not super helpful. So there's stuff like the appraisal or some weird thing on your insurance because your property is unique in this one specific way. That 30-day time frame isn't really even accounting for those unique situations, although some can fit in there. That's your normal deal, where there's not a ton of weird stuff comes up. Most real estate has some little thing that's weird.
For sure.
That's like baked in there. But
yeah, and one thing that's always been fascinating to me, like working with investors, and I still feel like it's a common thread. It's, I don't know if it's because these are investment properties that they're trying to purchase or they have that in mind, but it's like the common best practices for real estate transactions. It's like realtors that know that and other industry, third parties that know that. It's like, for whatever reason, it's like they have amnesia when it comes over to this side of the table. It's like, we're still doing a real estate transaction. Like, there's still a lot of the same things. Like, we need a valuation. Somebody's lending money. They're going to need to underwrite that. We're going to have to do all the checks and balances. But it's for whatever reason, it comes in with this like more high pressure timeline than what I feel like you experience on the conventional. If it's you're buying a house you're going to live in. But I think if there's realtors listening, or if you're an investor and you have a good relationship with your realtor, it's educating them too, of creating that margin, just like they would in other side of transactions. And that's what you're paying them for, is to help negotiate a reasonable time frame that's supportive and doesn't start off high stress, right? Like, so supporting them with the understanding that, hey, let's understand the loan processes here so that we can set appropriate expectations so that we're not spinning our wheels almost immediately because we started with a contract that we are immediately going to have to go back to the seller and say we have failed to meet the expectations. So if the seller is unwilling, which I know that comes up, to select you as the buyer because of a 30-day timeline, there's an education component there that comes up. Like, tell the seller what needs to happen and create that partnership with them of understanding. But I think that's always been very interesting to me, is like, there's this expectation that this industry in this space for real estate investors functions completely different to the loan process in the conventional world. And I don't really feel like, I don't know, that's always been really fascinating to me. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that, but it's just like, why?
I mean, the more bewildering thing to me is when that no party is tracking that this is, private lending that's interacting. We just still put unrealistic targets on it. Like, I don't think I had a transaction recently where, they got under contract a week ago and it was So can we close in, 10 days from now? And this was a conversation I had yesterday, and I was like, 4 weeks from the time you pay for the appraisal. And so it's, but I don't think anybody was necessarily tracking that this was conventional or a rehab loan or a DSCR loan. It was just, we put a really short timeline on this because this is what the seller thought was, or what we thought was going to get that seller to buy off on this offer.
Yeah, I mean, and there may be some disingenuous negotiation tactics there of, we'll get it in, we'll lock this deal in under these presuppositions, and then we'll just deal with that later. That's one way to do it. I think a lot of people do function that way. I don't love approaching things that way when you really could know that from the front end. There's a lot of stuff that you can't know, right? And that's baked in with real estate. There's so many variables, but if you can know that on the front end, and if you use that, even though you know that timeline can't be met, you say otherwise to get under contract, and then we'll figure it out later. That is leaving a seller. It leads to significantly higher stress situations that could be avoided on the front end, that maybe not morally as clean as they could be. I think part of that's part of the industry, but it doesn't always necessarily have to be there.
Well, I think that like the value too to just think about is if you are an investor, are you working with realtors that work with investors and have experienced private lending or institutional lending? Same thing with title companies and insurance companies. Sometimes the biggest roadblocks in transactions are when investors are working with people that are not educated on this space and they're not educated on the timelines, on, requirements, processes, because they're finding things out the same time you as the investor are. So they can't work as proactive. And I can tell you, we've worked with a ton of phenomenal realtors and, title companies, insurance companies that specialize in investor focused transactions. And so, if you are working with a realtor, right, which not everybody does in this space, but if you are asking those questions, are you familiar with private lending? Are you a resource to me in that? And if they're not, like, get them on the phone with the account executive before you start trying to find projects so that we can help them write appropriate contract timelines.
So let's brass tacks this a little bit. Like from pre-loan to closing, like what are some of those things that Mr. or Mrs. Investor can do to set themselves up to have the shortest timeline consistently? What would you tell somebody listening? Do these things from even before you're under contract or before you're ready to do a loan to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, I think if the question is like, well, why does it take 30 days? It's because for one, these loan programs, whether it's a rehab loan or a DSCR loan for a turnkey property, are all underwriting to a specific property. And so though we're gonna take a look at that the investors, creditworthiness and the cash that they've got available, and we're gonna do, lenders run a background check. It's a pretty light look at the investor, and it's primarily focused on, for a rehab loan, either the value add that you're completing or the cash flow through a debt service coverage ratio calculation on that property. And so with that in mind, you can't get pre-approved on a property that you haven't selected yet.
Some of that stuff happens in the loan. But before, we'll know because we don't have those validated third-party reports that give us the information to do so.
Your local bank underwrites to you as a person, and so half that underwriting process is done when you are pre-approved.
Still take 45 days.
You would think that they'd be able to knock it out pretty quickly once you have an appraisal back, and I've had really good luck with that personally. So, but when it comes to some best practices, it's engaging with your lending source early and often
Ahead of time.
And so, hey, I'm looking at properties in this area, like this is my estimated purchase price, or like here's a couple properties I'm going to go look at that, and like here's what I'm anticipating. And then that gives your lending partner a chance to basically show you what your loan will look like. So that way then you say, that works for me.
You can account for it.
Or it doesn't. How do we pivot?
And then when you're under contract or ready to transact, they can start working with you, the lender person, at day 0,
Right.
instead of day 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm under contract. Now I'll start looking for my loan person. Well, that can take a few days, especially if like, well, your loan quote's $100 more than this guy. I'm going to take a week and a half to work everybody over to save $50. You lose 2 weeks versus, to the extent that you need to do that stuff, that's fine. But you've worked that out ahead of time so that when I'm going to work with Nate at Loan Bids or whoever at lender X, Y, or Z. I know that when I'm under contract and they can start working with you at day 0 instead of day 14.
Right.
The rest of the process has every opportunity to meet that 30 or shorter day time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that an investor can walk and chew gum at the same time with, like finding the right insurance. Hey, I think I'm going to go through my local insurance guy. Cool. We'll order an insurance quote for you as well. While we're waiting for that appraisal report to come back anyways, we've got a 10 to 14 day period while we're waiting for an appraisal to come back for us to work out some stuff like that. And we can make decisions. You don't have to land on that before you find a property.
Get the ball moving.
But walk and chew gum at the same time for which lender or which financing option am I going with doesn't work when you're already under contract.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing that, as far as the loan process is happening, there is no loan process.
Right.
Like, and that's one of the things that investors have is they're going through the loan, let's say, shopping process. So in their head, they've got their process for the loan is happening. But as a matter of fact, the loan that's going to end up closing, whoever that's with, doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
It's a figment of their imagination at best, let alone the person that's actually going to do it. And that gives that false sense of security. It's like, oh, I'm working on my loan. Actually, you are not working on that loan. The loan doesn't exist at all.
Yeah.
In reality, even though they feel like it. And that's where it comes in. It's like, well, we started here. Well, actually, no, we didn't. I didn't get the loan application completed in accuracy until this day. Oh gosh, that was 5 or 6 days later. Well, now we only have 25 days to close this loan. Like, and it can really get going. So the big thing is like, have that decided ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So that, because it can be decided ahead of schedule, so that when you're ready to transact, your lender person, whoever that is starting at day 0 instead of day 2, 3, 4, 5. Or whatever, that helps the most.
To shed a little bit of light on that too, like for both loan products, obviously kind of supporting what Nate said is there's questions you can ask about yourself ahead of time, right? Before, while you're looking at the properties, we can even help with resources and tools to make sure the DSCR makes sense, to make sure the return on investment for the rehab project makes sense. But we can also be asking you questions about your experience, about your liquidity, so that we're pre-flighting that. But like Nate and Greg were saying is like really until we have an application with the property and a scope of work and the rehab budget, like we really don't have anything we can do anything with yet. Because we're trying to get to the valuation as soon as possible. And so if you are able to prepare some of those things ahead of time, right, your experience and your entity documents, if you are doing a refinance and you have a lease agreement, getting that paperwork kind of prepped ahead of time or just keeping it organized to begin with is going to help support you when you are in the transaction. But yeah, just talking about the transaction, even talking about the specific property isn't really anything we can do anything with until we have an application and something on paper that we can put on our conveyor belt to really start moving, through the transaction to where we can help support you, get us those things, walk and chew gum at the same time, right? We're going to be working and thinking through how can we layer things with this item so that we're working on multiple things at once. So yeah, we do close transaction in a much, much less time than 30 days. But there's prep work ahead of time, which I think our repeat borrowers take advantage of, right? After they do their first transaction, like, hey, I'm going to come ahead of time. I'm going to start doing these things. I'm going to get the application in faster.
Get organized along the way.
We do. We really want to do that, not just for that one transaction, but to educate like, hey, what could you have done in this to make your timeline go faster, so that next time, just come to us earlier, right? We want to strategize with you. We want to help where we can, but we really need you to understand that your purchase contract, we really can't even start on it and the timeline that is there until we have an application in for that specific property. And then we can help support you with the rest of the
We've got a
docs.
cool document that we send out. Maybe we can wrap up with this. I'm sure we can post it with this and or email it out. However, this podcast makes it out to people of like, what are those common documents that you just need to have?
Yeah.
There's some unique to the transaction, scope of work, for instance. But there's a lot that just you need to have. Driver's license, entity documents, bank statements. Now, the bank statements update as every month burns off, but we've got that list of documents, and there's just a few that are unique to the transaction type.
Yeah.
That could be a really good resource for folks. It's not just, here's all the docs you have to have, but it's like, it's not a ton.
Yeah.
And if you just organize them, like if I'm doing a loan for an investment property, entity docs, I already got that folder. Boom, done. You have that the very second that you request it. It's in the folder. When I'm doing a loan, I just pull my bank statements out, all of the liquidity that I need to show. I just load them. I change the file names. I have it ready to go. So when a transaction manager asks for it, bloop, there you go. It's nice and organized for them so that they can move faster. So I think us patching that list to however this gets communicated over the media sources would be really helpful for anybody that's like, oh, interesting. How could I prepare? That would be a great resource.
Yeah, for sure. I think like the key takeaways are obviously strategize early, use us or another lending partner before you get under contract to look at terms, what options are available, even look at the property with you before you sign the agreement. The second thing is as soon as you get it under contract, get an application in. And then the last thing is work ahead on the documents to be organized, right? We can send that list out. We can prep you with what the expectations generally are. But the more organized you are, the faster you can respond. So even if you are the guy that's driving in the truck all day, you're not at your computer, you've already got some of those things organized in advance so that the extra things don't feel like such a burden to go along with it. So those key things, along with, I think, making sure your third parties and partners are educated on the investor loans and that they're setting up contracts that are reasonable with what the industry is going to offer. Because guess what? That's unnecessary stress from the start, that if you have somebody that truly gets it, they're going to support you so you don't have to think about that.
And if anybody guarantees a closing time frame before you have an application, they are lying to you. Including us. If anybody works for us that says that, which is because nobody would do that works in the industry that is working in earnest for you with any level of honesty. All that we can do is set you up for the best success to close in the fastest time frame until something weird comes up, right? But you'll be in the best position to deal with that in a quick, timely fashion.
Yeah, definitely. So
Awesome. Well, here's to closing loans quickly.
Yeah.
For everybody and guaranteeing 2-week closes. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Good combo.
Thanks for listening to the Deal Vault. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share with another investor and leave us a review. If you're looking for help funding your next deal, you can always holler at us at loanbids.com. We'd love to help you on that deal. Until next time, keep building, keep investing.